Minnesota-based Hammer-Made shirts are meant to help you look your best at any special occasion. And now through August 4th, they're holding their halftime sale with up to 50% off in savings. Check it out now at hammermade.com. And to give you a head start on your shopping, we've got a $100 Hammer-Made gift card for caller number 11. Call 800-320-5326 right now.
All right, Max, appreciate you, man. Specifically with the technical problems we had early in the show, keeping your wits about you and being patient. But then 9 to noon, boom, Indeed is in the air at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Nordo produces on site. I'm Paul Allen. This spot was supposed to go to Minnesota Vikings offensive line coach Chris Cooper. That's going to take place tomorrow, and it's guaranteed. So you will hear the leader of the Minnesota Moving Company tomorrow. But right now you will hear one of the very best, our main man, Gabe Henderson, at Gabe Henderson via Twitter. And he's with Vikings.com and the Vikings Entertainment Network. He's on the exclusive Vikings Radio Network perch with us. And before we get into some hardcore Minnesota Vikings-related minutia with pads going on today, how's Ella and what's new with her?
She's good. She's running the house. There's no, literally no cabinet unopened, no door unclosed.
Right.
Everything is her world at this point, and it's the best right now. She's walking, and she was out here at training camp the other day, so she's in full camp mode right now. So glad to see you guys.
You too. Very sweet. Welcome back, as Alec Lewis would tweet and or say, we're back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was so excited when he saw Darnold hit Jefferson over the top sans pads for a 50-plus. I mean, the tweet was like Justin went skipping around and the ball was perfect, and we're back, which we are back. There's a game in 12 days against the Las Vegas Raiders at U.S. Bank Stadium. Then we go to Cleveland. We're going to be in Cleveland longer than we're going to be in London, which is weird. And after that, close up at Philadelphia, then the regular season at MetLife Stadium against the Giants. Let's chop up some football with Gabe Henderson, and here's Nordo.
Well, let's start with the QBs. Beauty in the eye of the beholder. So over the weekend, did a Saturday show here with Saucy, kind of watched the walkthrough portion of it. Ultimately, they're doing 7-on-7s and various drills. I've been seeing some say, and I've tried not to catch myself in this, where you're willing someone over the hump in terms of your not delusions of grandeur, but your expectations for him.
Yeah.
And that's J.J. McCarthy. Over the weekend, I'm hearing people, you wouldn't believe J.J.'s outperforming Sam Darnold on a consistent basis at camp, and he had this red zone bit where he was like, I think 4 of 5 with 3 TDs, perfectly placed, back of the end zone. Again, no pads on. But what have you seen thus far in terms of, let's not go too far, how's JJ looking? You're probably getting that question all the time. But what do you think about these QBs out here?
Yeah, these QBs, they've made a huge stride from OTAs and minicamp until now. And just speaking of J.J. McCarthy in general, this past Saturday, those red zone drills, that was the best that I have seen him look all offseason. And granted, Sam Darnold, he is the presumably starter, and he's been doing his thing, but still, everyone out here is to see JJ. How long is it going to take for him to ultimately be the guy? And I do believe JJ's resurgence has ultimately made Sam Darnold better, and ultimately this entire offense better, but still, it's kind of too early to tell how good J.J. McCarthy's going to be without the pads on, right? Like everybody's Hall of Famers. Jay Nelson always says that everybody's Hall of Famers in shorts and T-shirts. So you really can't say a guy is going to be who he's going to be right now this early on.
Well, I mostly agree with Jay. I'm not Canton bound out here myself, but I get the point and the sentiment. Talking with Christian Darrisaw here on the perch on Saturday, and he was speaking to how fantastic it is working with both Darnold and J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
And as close to this as you are, what do you feel, if have you noticed any differences between, like, Kirk used to roll in here, it was business as usual. We all know, Kirk was Kirk personality-wise, also pretty high-end on the field, of course.
Yeah.
But it sounds like to me we're talking about different universes in terms of the personalities and what goes into working with some of these guys. Have you noticed a little bit of difference? Because I caught kind of a common theme with both Darnold and JJ. Like, these guys are dudes. Like and maybe there's just a different perspective among the players.
Yeah, I mean, it took Kirk a little bit. It took him some time to like really feel like himself in this locker room, and ultimately the team got around him. I think it was around that 2022 season when we went 13-3. Like, that was the year everyone was like, okay, this is who Kirk is. JJ and Sam Darnold, when they got here, they just pretty much figured out the rest of the locker room and said, okay, this is who I am, accept me for who I am, like it or not. And ultimately, that's made this entire team better. And Kirk was one of my favorite guys in the entire locker room. But when you look at this young energy, right?
Yeah.
26-year-old Sam Darnold, 21-year-old J.J. McCarthy, they just kind of get it. They understand the times with the locker room. And when you look at Christian Darrisaw, him saying those comments of like, look, when J.J. McCarthy comes in the locker room, you just know that he's here. He just has a presence about himself, and he looks everybody in their eyes. He's, dapping everybody up. He's giving hugs. Just a free spirit type of kid. And Sam Darnold been around a bunch of locker rooms, understands the vibes, understands how the team build. And, being in San Francisco last year, being on a Super Bowl team, he understands what a locker room is supposed to look like. So they both have their uniqueness, but ultimately you can start to see these guys starting to gather around him, and ultimately hopefully that helps, build that quarterback position battle come week one.
Now, eventually later today, they'll put the pads on. That's where, some questions are going to start to be answered in a hurry, which is sweet. But one thing, have you noticed the athleticism being evident with these QBs in particular? And I heard Ben Lieber on my way over here to the facility today kind of talking about, and it's very true, Kirk could be elusive, and Kirk evolved into somebody that, from a pocket awareness standpoint, from his first years here, where as soon as there was pressure, it's two hands on the ball, sucks it to his chest, head down, and Kenny Clark kills him. Now, by the time we get through 2023, sadly the injury takes half the season, but you started to see, and it was a talker at times, like, can Kirk improve in that?
Yeah.
And, old dogs, new tricks type of thing. And I think Kirk did a good job of that. I think the trademark of both these, whether it's age and certainly maybe some immeasurables, both Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy appear to possess a little more athleticism overall, just on a base standpoint. Do you see that at all?
Yeah, I would say that. J.J. McCarthy, in general, you just know that he can make plays on the run. If you turn on Sam Darnold's film when he's been able to be in the games, a lot of his really good passes down the field are outside of the pocket, extending plays. And there have been a few periods out here, a few team periods in particular, where, the first option wasn't open, the second option wasn't open, and Sam Darnold automatically fills the pocket, steps up, and starts running, looking down the field, extending the play. And that's something that you just can't coach. When you have it, you have it. And both of these quarterbacks, Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy, both have it. And honestly, being here, Kirk was the quarterback when I first got here in 2020. And, one of the, when protected, I think Kirk is the top 3 most accurate quarterback in the NFL. But when the play breaks down, that's when the big question marks came of like, okay, can Kirk extend the play? I know PA just talked to the Arizona Cardinals Vox in the last segment, but that Cardinals game where Kirk had that, I think, a 30-yard touchdown run at US Bank Stadium where he extended the play, it's like, if Kirk can do this every play, man, we could be that much better.
It didn't hurt that Marcus Golden, I think, was the guy trying to beat him to the pylon. Woo, he looked like Usain Bolt just taking that turn up. Oh, it was beautiful artwork from Kirk.
But seeing that more often now with these two quarterbacks in the mix, even Nick Mullins, he can extend the play if need be, but having that option now, ultimately as a receiver, you just know you're always a valuable weapon down the field. So I'm excited to see what that looks like with pads on, with the quarterbacks we have now in the system.
With J.J. McCarthy, I think it will be virtually impossible to analyze the exact who, what, where, when, and why of said rookie until he gets X amount of plays with the first offensive line, the first skill guys against the first defense, and the first defense for opponents. And practice after practice, game after game, game after game. So it's when you're running with the group that he consistently runs with, there are challenges that the one will not face, and specifically when pads go on. You know what I mean?
Yep. And when it comes to building your confidence with the second team, the level of maturity is lessened by that, because when you have those starters, your first offensive line going in there, you're going to have 2.5, 3 seconds to get the ball off. When you have the second team, just usually on any team, you're not going to have as much time. So the maturity, the level of growth, we're going to see some challenges, some adversity, and I think the reason why Kevin O'Connell has JJ in this offense is because of what he did at Michigan. He was only asked to throw the ball on third down when pressure was in his face. I believe he had the second highest completion rate versus the blitz in college last year. So the guy can make plays under pressure. So how that translate with his second team, ultimately with his first team, whenever that time comes, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, months ago, you and I chatted with the same person at the same time about Walter Rouse and Michael Juergens.
Yep.
And those are a couple of rookies. And the person told us the same thing. With Rouse, he rarely gets pushed back. That he's just a bulldog with his approach, and he's very smart. And that they happen to be quite high on him. Now, with pads going on today, again, that's going to change, amplify, or eliminate opinions. Yep. Juergens, we were told, will be a starting center in the NFL one day, and that's not going to be this year.
Yep.
But nevertheless, they undoubtedly are quite high on him and what he's doing, and McCarthy works with those two. But again, we're not talking about in pads. This is, and the preseason games are going to be big for those guys. I think JJ plays a lot in the preseason, don't you?
For sure. I think him and Sam play a lot. JJ plays a little bit more, but I do think Sam has to get a few reps, at least in that first preseason game. I don't know if joint practices are going to be enough.
Yeah.
But maybe after the Raiders game, he gets joint practices and he's done. But JJ, he's going to get a majority of those reps. He's going to be thrown in the fire at least by that third preseason game in Philly. I mean, JJ, can you come out, kickoff, beginning of a game, command an offense and drive an offense down the field with no type of fidgety in your windup or anything that comes with that. So his poise will be tested. I'm excited to see what this offseason looks like now that pads come on. Everything up to this point, it matters, but it really doesn't matter, right? Because football is played with pads on. So we're going to see a live pass rush. We're going to see pressure in his face. Can he make plays down the field? And I'm excited to see what it'll look like today.
Adam Schefter just tweeted the Minnesota Vikings have made a free agent signing.
Yeah.
They have signed a Dolphins and Giants free agent defensive back Bobby McCain, reuniting him with Minnesota defensive coordinator Brian Flores. Undoubtedly, they were together in Miami. Also, last week, I'm sure you know this, the Vikings brought in the Duke. The Duke is on fire. 29's running around the field, but to Bobby McCain, I got all his albums. He's back. He's with the Minnesota Vikings as some cornerback assurance.
Yeah, and I do want to get back to that because Shaq. Why am I losing Shaq Griffin? Excuse me. There was an announcement that he suffered. I guess it's a soft tissue injury. Could have been worse, so that's good news. But I do want to get back to the quarterbacks. But I wanted to hit one last thing. I felt like I was overthinking it about Sam Darnold. It just made sense to me that Sam would take snaps in the preseason under Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, yeah.
And we've covered this at length over the previous 2 years, is Kirk's the guy, right? So you're going to go some low impact, thud in these joint practices. He's going to get his work done there, and then it's lights out, put him on ice if Pete Bursich was here. But now with Sam, this is truly a completely unique situation, right? So whether it's the joint practices with Cleveland, but ultimately in those 3 preseason games, even if it's if we're playing the series-by-series game or a quarter, Sam, we got to get Sam out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I really do believe that first preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders, that's going to play a huge factor in this quarterback position battle, is because after that, now you have a full week of going against the starters in Cleveland against that, very good defensive front. You got Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith. Oh, did I mention Myles Garrett coming at both of those quarterbacks in first team? So there's going to be a lot of reps for both of those guys. And I think if Kevin O'Connell, if he's going through his full evaluation process, he definitely has to consider playing Sam Darnold a lot in that first preseason game, because he hasn't really got a full look in a couple of years now. So it'll be interesting to see.
Right, and another thing, and Kevin's generally really good with this.
Yep.
What you're talking about is recognizing there is one home preseason game. People actually pay money to come to that game, and they want to see J.J. McCarthy. So, I mean, it's I don't know how much JJ is going to play in that game, but, I mean, the fans are really paying because Justin Jefferson ain't playing in that game. I'd be surprised if Aaron Jones plays in that game.
Right.
Harrison Smith ain't going to play. So, I mean, it's people.
Walter Rouse is going to play in that game, though.
Right. And people, so, McCarthy, if only because it's a home game and you want to see reps with him, we can go business first. We need to see reps. We need to see him throwing to Lucky Jackson. We need to see Nick Muse stroke the post on a dime from J.J. McCarthy. Or that probably would be Robert Tonyan. I've seen run with the 2s and the 3s quite a bit so far with Hawkinson on the men. But fans want to see J.J. McCarthy, and I'll be curious to see how much he plays 12 days from today.
Speaking of wanting to see third receiver starting to establish itself, and so now kind of, from where we've gone to now where we are going starting today, you mentioned it, and Jay's right. Everyone looks like a Hall of Famer in shorts and a T-shirt, but now pads are going to go on. So from your standpoint, playing wide receiver at Liberty, knowing the position well, you've been out there throwing and catching passes at times as it is right here on these fields. What are you looking for from a Jalen Naylor standpoint? Let's go Wolfle walk-ons with Thayer Thomas. Just all of these individuals as we try to answer that question as to who replaces KJ Osborne. I
think right now when you look at that wide receiver 3 position, without the pads on, Jalen Naylor is your guy that stands out the most. The back-together weekend this past Saturday, he had 3 touchdowns in the end zone where they were just spectacular catches, right? I mean, good route running, great finish, the swag at the end, the celebration. He just looked to par when you look at, okay, if someone is going to replace KJ Osborne, Jalen Naylor is going to be that guy. Now that the pads come on, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like and what that transition will be.
What about Brandon Powell?
Brandon Powell, he's going to be a playmaker. He's a kick returner, punt returner. I believe at the worst, he will be wide receiver 4.
Right.
Like, you just know when the ball is in his hands, he's going to make a play.
Okay, well,
but you're starting to see the shoves and the battles at the line, right, with the pads on?
Yep.
Is Brandon Powell PR1?
PR1.
Punt returner 1.
He was punt returner 1 last year, I believe, and I think
Wednesday, Jordan Addison was catching a lot of punts.
I mean, if you, I would be surprised if Jordan Addison is returning punts week 1.
Not to clump, but we really need to start honing in and just getting squared away on this kickoff thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that sucker's changing every single day with the stuff they're throwing against the wall.
Yep.
And if Brandon Powell were to return kicks in this situation, it would not surprise me. Maybe they're getting Addison to handle the trajectory of kicks and/or punts because maybe they feel he is a guy they can use back there. Kene Nwanwu obviously is on the roster, but with Kene, I mean, he might be the fastest guy out here when we're running 100, but when it comes to getting going and quick twitch and making 1 or 2 guys miss in very, very quick fashion, I'm curious to see how he handles this. So it's this, and I want to talk about it around the corner because there was something that changed today or changed over the weekend, and the New Orleans Saints special teams coordinator had something interesting to say about it. I saw it via Kevin Seifert's Twitter feed, and we'll do all that when we continue from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. You're listening to 9 to Noon.
Minnesota Vikings training camp is back, and we'll be there each day with great prizes up for grabs, including KFAN swag, preseason tickets, and a signed Jordan Addison helmet. Stop by and find our Mall of America street team and ask us how you can enter to win. And don't forget to ask us about our MOA mystery cards. Get your tickets to training camp today at Vikings.com/training camp.
Welcome back, 9 to Noon on the Perch here in Eagan, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, 9 to Noon. And PA rejoining us momentarily. Gabe Henderson, Vikings Entertainment Network, is with us. I did mention in the last segment, but being out here on Saturday with Saucy, hearing when Kevin O'Connell says it's a soft tissue injury for Shaq Griffin, breath of relief maybe abound.
Yeah.
And I guess, we can get to that, but it's the distraction factors into the season, and I'm not minimizing tragedy in that regard, but this team having to deal with adversity right out of the gates, the death of Kyrie Jackson, and then you have a torn ACL from Mekhi Blackmon just a week and change later, as they're still trying to figure out how to deal with the emotions surrounding their lost teammate. And now Shaq, during early on in practices as well. How do you think the team overall, as they get out here at camp, I saw them on Saturday, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, but how do you feel that they've dealt with that situation just in totality over the last few weeks?
I think this team has dealt with that as best as it can, right? Like you deal with the death early on with a guy that was arguably going to come in here and get some meaningful reps. You draft him for a reason, and unfortunately he passes away in an unfortunate car accident. Still just sad to think about that. And now, the first practice, I believe it was the first practice, you're getting over that. You're trying to see what this new look defense looks like. And middle of the practice, Mekhi Blackmon goes down, and you could just feel the wind just get sucked out of the team, because you're like, all right, well, we got to go to the next play, but we know the cornerback position, there's a position battle there, and that's a guy that's going to hopefully make plays for us this year. And fast forward 3 hours after that injury, the news comes out of Mekhi Blackmon torn ACL, and ultimately that puts more pressure on this defensive back unit, especially those young guys, the White McLaughlins of the world, who was an undrafted free agent this year that was on the borderline of getting some meaningful reps. Now his role increases. Now you sign Bobby McCain.
Yeah, it's
ultimately going to factor when it comes to making some tough decisions this offseason, because you have to weigh everything. But the other 31 teams don't feel sorry for you. Yeah, they understand that unfortunate situations happen, but we're going to test your defensive back unit to see how good they are, and hopefully our pass rush can marry up to our pass coverage, because we're going to need that, especially those first few games when it comes to trying to find some depth at that cornerback position.
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
Well, one of my favorite parts about pads going on today is finally, we're sitting out here, I'm watching Dallas Turner. Okay, I get it. It's just typical guy out of college that's cut out of stone, and he's super fast, by the way, too. Mm-hmm. But now the pads are going to come on and those sorts of things, and that's where I was going with this dearth of just healthy bodies in the secondary right now is, he's not going to put it out publicly, but there's probably some sweating in Flores' camp here as he's trying to figure out, we lost some names in Daniil, and we know that we can play that game in terms of who's out. But I simultaneously feel that they got a little bit deeper. And maybe that if we're leveling out level of talent across the board, I think that they actually should be a deeper and better front seven than they were a year ago.
That's a good point.
And that's ultimately the game then that Flores is going to have to play, is that marriage of coverage outside and just getting, the trickiness, as good as it was in 2023, might just have to be that much better, bringing in the Van Ginkels and the Turners and even the Jerry Tillery. Let's go, Jerry! But everybody included up front there.
Yeah, and I think this front seven, while you said they got deeper, I believe the wealth of talent just increased also. You have a rookie who's going to be in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year if he stays healthy. He's probably coming off the bench if Andrew Van Ginkel's healthy. Your third down pass rush, your run defense, you're hoping Harrison Phillips and Jonathan Bullard can take another step in their career. There are so many weapons on that front seven that Brian Flores can lean on, and hopefully to the main point of, you hope that can alleviate some pressure on the cornerback position, because if it doesn't, you're going to be leaning on your depth to be able to come in and make some plays immediately. Like I do believe Byron Murphy has made another step in his game. He looks a lot more quicker, understands the game better. Second year in this Brian Flores defense. Caleb Evan, we know from a physical standpoint, he has all the tools. It's just putting everything else together with that. Now he has another year under Brian Flores to do that. And Shaq Griffin, when he gets back healthy, we know he's been a proven starter in this league. But now that you have those injuries, you just hope some of those young guys they make the most of these reps, the ton of reps that they're going to get with both the first and the second team during training camp.
Did you watch, or are you watching Netflix Receiver?
I watched it.
Okay. Well, it one of the great things about it that I enjoyed was the humility and humble nature of Justin Jefferson, and that Philadelphia situation with the pylon, and how bad he felt about it, and then in the locker room, and then out of the locker room, and then on the bus, and then on the plane. Yeah. You just know Justin really cares. I thought that was a really cool behind the scenes type look at a team. On the other side of it, one thing that continually frustrated me was when they would put together stuff with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Well, I mean, does a Caleb Evans have to be on the wrong side of every single Amon-Ra St. Brown catch you show on Netflix? Are you kidding me? I mean, it was like a 30. I thought, all right, 30 seconds, we got out of it alive. Caleb got beat. He was pointing at somebody else, and it's a first down. Well, then they went back to some more stuff. I'm like, can we get 21 out of the frame here? I mean, this is just bad for business right here. So that just kind of gave me a snapshot as to how things finished with the Caleb. And, I think it's fair to remember that was from Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's first draft. And the measurables matter, but a Caleb, long, strong, long arms, and speedy. So we have, when you are a stock trader by trade, when the stock world is your go-to by trade, and you're very good at it, you're going to take what you can find at the collegiate level and make it tangible from a progression and or prognosticating standpoint to the highest level. And with that 2022 draft, obviously there have been some problems. Okay, well, 2023 got better than the free agency class this year, and you can just tell that Kwesi is morphing. That he's changing on the fly. His self-awareness is really, really high, and he brought collaboration as it's a word, but he brought it in here as a strong foundational type word for the culture within this facility, and to execute that the right way, you have to be authentic, which means when you make a mistake, you have to say, my bad. Here's what I did wrong, and I'm going to correct it. So I'm not saying that Caleb belongs or does not belong. I know why he was drafted. It made sense why he was drafted. Now it's up to a Caleb Evans with X amount of reps on his resume to figure out how to stay, right?
And he's going up against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison every play. So he's getting the best, probably two of the top 15 receivers, JJ being first, but two of the top 15 receivers every single play in practice. So he has no choice but to get better, and that's best case scenario if you're Brian Flores, because if you lose a rep, look, come back next play, learn from your mistakes, and go from there. So I'm excited to see his resurgence in year number 3 for him.
Gabe Henderson via Twitter, Vikings Entertainment Network. Before we pause for the final segment, I've been meaning to ask you this, and I think I know the answer to it, but I want you to put it out there publicly because I thought it was really cool that you started a football camp for kids, and it was the inaugural year this year. In your hometown, in Raleigh, right?
Yep, Raleigh.
In Raleigh, North Carolina. Yep. And you and I talked a lot about it up to it. I know how proud you were to do it. So I'm going to give you a fist bump right now. How did it go?
It went really well. The 2 days prior to the camp, it rained every day. So leading up to the camp, everybody was like, I got the text of like, hey, how we feeling about tomorrow? It did not rain on camp day, and we had about 65 kids show up.
Wow.
Volunteers came out. Bucky Brooks from NFL Network included. Just a great day. I think the highlight was just seeing the kids' faces.
Yeah.
Like they were happy. They were smiling. We tried to add some broadcasting in there. Like the ultimate goal of what we want to do back home is provide opportunities just not in the game of football but outside of the game. So we're slowly sneaking in broadcast techniques and drills in between what we're teaching on the football field. So it's my passion being able to give back to not only my community but just the community in general, and just being exposed to resources like we have here in Minnesota. I'm so blessed and thankful, and ultimately, hopefully, I can continue to change a kid's life and hopefully find the next Gabe Henderson, right? Like my goal is to continue to inspire the next person that wants to be on camera that doesn't look like the mainstream media. So day by day. I appreciate it.
That's beautiful. Final segment, last question posed for Gabe Henderson. If you missed some stuff earlier, pads go on today for the Minnesota Vikings, and as we go in the NFL world, today is a very big day for each and every team around the league, and we'll see what intrigues him when we return. The final segment, 9 to noon, is provided by...
Yeah, thank you so much, Casey's. Whether it's the wraps on the show or the final segments of the show, Casey's Food and Fuel Rewards or the Elite Pizza, thin or original crust. Stop into a Casey's today, PA.
With pads going on today, the interior, the offensive and defensive lines and linebackers and tight end protection and running back, stuff like that, I mean, that all pops up, where you really start to see who's getting it at this equation and who isn't. Now, from a receiver or defensive back standpoint, pads go on. What excites you about receivers trying to get open, stuff like that?
Yeah, for a receiver is, can you still get separation? Now that you know that these DBs are going to be a little bit smarter. When they're close to you, they're going to be grabbing your shirt. They're going to be grabbing your pants. Just the veteran moves of the game. Can you still get separation and make plays and get up and do it over again? There's so many different things that you can't see without the pads on, and now the real man will come out to play. And of course, offensive defensive line pads are for these guys. We finally get to get a look at what the defensive line will look like with the offensive line trying to block and vice versa. So I'm excited. Today's my favorite day of the year.
So with that scenario, do teams put players in situations that you don't prefer to have during games? In other words, Christian Darrisaw is one of the better left tackles in the NFL.
Yeah.
Dallas Turner is the favorite to become Defensive Rookie of the Year. And, with the sacks and tackles for loss and where he was drafted, he's ballyhooed. I mean, they're counting on Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
So outside of the one-on-ones, like in 11-on-11 situations, will they put Dallas in a spot to go right at Christian?
Yeah.
And let's see how you handle this little duck move he has with his left shoulder or the spin. Meanwhile, let's see how Turner handles Darrisaw when he gets his hands on him.
For sure. I think it'll start in the one-on-ones. They're going to, if you have Dallas Turner at your left defensive end, you're going to move him to the right for the next rep against Christian Darrisaw. There are going to be plenty of opportunities for Dallas Turner to get some reps with arguably the best left tackle in the game. And how he fares, it'll be interesting to see, but that's what I'm most excited about. We know Jonathan Grenard is going to get some first-team reps with, Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw, but what about this rookie? How good is he? How does he fare? How does he live up to the speed of the game? I'm excited, Pierre.
Yeah, so am I. And the one-on-one drills, now the receivers in the corners, those one-on-one drills are cool, but you're reliant on somebody else to make it work or play into it not working, the quarterback, and then you put the weather into it, and it's been windy here every single day this entire training camp. Now, but when it's the O-line and D-line or O-line and edge guys, and it's one-on-one, well, no, that's the mano a mano,
right?
Where if you get beat by a move, you didn't know the move was coming, but you're not supposed to get beat. You're supposed to stand the person up,
right?
And Christian's really, really good at protecting that part of the equation, and Turner's moves are also really good. This is going to be nice.
And on top of that, something that a lot of fans are starting to understand is that Dallas Turner sometimes in individual workouts before the team goes to team, he works out with the inside linebackers, and then when he starts practice, he's with the outside linebackers. So on one-on-ones today, we might see some Dallas Turner against Garrett Bradbury.
I saw that.
Maybe some opportunities for him to get some interior pass rush also.
I saw that, and I saw it somewhere else in the offseason.
Yep.
And it indicates to me, and I've said this 9 to noon, is I believe he, in certain situations, is your inside guy in nickel and dime on third down. So, with 3-4 defensive ends, if it's a standard 3-4, you have Jonathan Bullard and who else? I mean, it's a battle.
Harrison Phillips.
Yeah, Harrison. Well, he's your nose.
Yep.
So, but they rotate; they're interchangeable.
Yep.
Jerry Tillery, big opportunity for him to win a spot. But when Flores starts mixing that thing up, and it's 3rd and 6 or longer. And you see Dallas Turner with a hand in the grass or mugging the A-gap standing up, you have to account for that. So that's why I just felt that having him inside as a linebacker, I mean, sure, that may happen, but I think they're getting ready for him to see what it looks like in situations for when he is a lineman. In nickel on third down.
I'm interested to see how much Micah Parsons film that Dallas Turner watches, because that's what Micah does in Dallas. He's inside, he's outside, he's able to move around, and you have your Dexter Lawrence, not Dexter Lawrence, but your their defensive ends of the world. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, to be able to do the one-on-one battles so your elite pass rusher can get in. So it'll be exciting.
Speaking of the word elite, that's every bit you, your wife Julia, and your daughter Ella. Thanks for stopping by. Looking forward to seeing you pretty much every day for the next 6.5 months.
Likewise, Pierre.
Good seeing you. Thank you, Nordo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max Fuller. And most importantly, thank each and every one of you for listening to 9 to Noon whenever you do. We're back at it tomorrow from the 651 Carpets Plus studios. And I'm Paul Allen. Have a wonderful day.
By going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.